Hello, everybody. Welcome to Level 1 News. Today is May 25th, and today we're doing government and social news for the week.
Krista's a little weird today. We know it, but we think it's Discord.
Yeah, Discord
Oh,
audio.
So,
Yeah, see, I can't hear it, but apparently I sound a little robotic.
a little robotic.
Maybe soon Krista can rejoin us in the studio.
Yeah.
It's also almost June, which is very sad. Computex is upon us, but
Wait, I
it's
thought they
almost
weren't
June.
doing it this year.
Well, it's online. I mean, it's still
Oh.
the event still happens, even if it doesn't happen in person.
I mean, they're still going to release a bunch of chips that we can't buy.
Yeah, I mean, why
It's,
not?
it's important to know about that. And you know who should be judged harshly, but won't be? Nothing will happen,
Literally
even
nothing.
though this is repulsive. But it's a tale as old as time, or at least as old as this industry has existed.
Verizon forces users onto pricier plans to get the $50 per month government subsidy. You might have to change internet plans to get the FCC's $50 low income subsidy. So this is like, we have the pro criminal tips. We need to make a note every time something this egregious happens. This is corporate death penalty country.
I'd say this is still criminal.
Yeah.
Might not be in the criminal code, but in the common law of man, this is a crime.
It's so egregious. It should be
Yeah.
a corporate death penalty. Like, it's like, oh, you could, let's haul this before a judge. The judge looks at this. It's like, oh, you did this, did you? Yes. Okay, well, your board of directors has been arrested, and we are dissolving your company. Good luck.
And taking their organs.
Yeah.
Now, here is the worst thing about it. Much like a lot of these plans where they do the introductory period, the ISPs love that.
Yeah.
This kind of has that built in because the subsidy runs out. When they run out of money, it's like so many $1 billion. When that's out, or after, was it 6 months or 3 months?
I think it's complicated.
There's an absolute sunset, though. And when that comes around, your special plan will go back to regular price, which I guess is $50 more.
Yeah.
Right? And you probably won't be able to get back to the old plan. Those will probably be removed.
Yeah. So you don't get cheap internet that is slow. You get fast internet that costs the same as cheap internet. And those are not the same thing, especially if you're poor. This is once again an attack on poor people.
But you get it temporarily.
It's very expensive being poor.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Have you
and-
thought about just having more money?
Exactly.
I mean, meanwhile, a 3090 can pull down almost as much money per day as someone working a normal 8-hour day minimum wage.
There's nothing wrong with that picture.
You're laughing, but it's kind of sad.
It's insane.
And if you will think back to before all this darkness, when we just talked a lot about a Jeep Pi. God, it was so much better. And one of the insane things that a Jeep Pi, one of the crazy premises that he based his world upon, is that the FCC, for some reason, shouldn't deal with ISPs. That should be the FTC. And the FTC was like,
What?
well, that's not really our job, but okay, I guess. And they have finally done something. But even in doing this, they're like, this is not our job. Stop making us do this.
Reuters reports that Frontier lied about internet speed, and this is according to the FTC in a post-net neutrality case. So the FTC took a look at this, and they're like, "Yep, consumers are harmed. The ISPs are being really horrible. Frontier lied about a whole bunch of stuff. However, we need the FCC's help in order to unpack some of the technological aspects of this and actually enforce the rules and do some other stuff."
That's how it was designed, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get back to that under the new ownership.
Level 1 told you that it didn't make sense what a Jeep Pi was doing, except and unless the intent was subterfuge. And here we are.
That was very effective.
Again, death penalty
Very effective.
for Frontier.
I think we should keep him alive.
No, well, I mean, Frontier is what I'm talking about. Like,
He should
Frontier is like took advantage of the situation. They're like, oh, an idiot politician created an opportunity that we could take advantage of. Corporate death penalty.
We need to get back to that thing where we put them in a cage and suspend them over the town square.
They throw rocks.
Yeah.
Not just rocks.
Anything you got.
Excrement.
All sorts of street vendors would pop up, some things that you could throw.
Remember the pie throwing dunk tank thing. How much money would Level 1 have to raise for charity in order to have a Jeep Pi participate in the pie throwing dunk tank contest?
How about a dunk tank? I think you're combining two things that don't combine, but in doing so, I think you've come up with something. We throw him to activate the dunk tank. We'll put somebody else in the tank, somebody popular. And then, you know, until you get a dunk, you have to keep throwing it.
My bones! He's like screaming in pain.
I'm sure he'd be unconscious after the first 2 or 3. Well, the gas is back kind of to normal. I mean, we're definitely not going back to those beautiful Trump days of gasoline anytime soon, I don't think. But
Pro criminal tip: store your extra gasoline in a styrofoam container to preserve it longer.
hopefully we're not having any more of that because the crisis is over. But in hindsight, could we have avoided it? This is a question that the government is maybe finally asking.
Federal government left completely blind on cyberattacks looks to force reporting. It'll go about as well as the forced reporting of HIPAA violations and data breaches. So yeah, there's people wandering around in local and federal government saying, we didn't, how did we not know this was the thing? It's like the rampant criminal activity online. How did we not know? It's like, well, you weren't paying attention.
They've certainly been writing articles about it because we've been reading them. Yeah. So, and this is a little bit of overreach probably too, because the government's saying you have to tell us everything about what's going on with this. You have to report to us. But maybe it's for the public good. I don't know. It's such a horrible situation. And another thing that you can never be sure about is whether or not that Amazon review that you just read is real, because there is big business in fake reviews. And up until now, Amazon seems to have not cared because they definitely benefit from that. I mean, if you see a fake review and it convinces you to buy a product, they get paid.
Yeah.
So why would they stop it? Well, now we find out why, maybe, that they finally did something.
Amazon internal messages show that the FTC is prodding the tech giant to punish fake review schemers. One of the takedowns involves a large Chinese electronics brand, Mpao.
What a terrible name.
Wow.
I saw that Aukey was on there too. I see a lot of Aukey products. Yeah. And Tac Life, you ever hear Tac Life? I bought a couple of Tac Life batteries recently. I'm worried about them.
You should be.
It's like, those are going to burst into flame.
You should be worried about even name brand products you bought from Amazon, because as someone who reorders the same products over and over and over and over again, there's definitely been several cases where it's like, this is an obvious fake.
It's weird how that happens. It's like you would think it's the same seller, and maybe it is, but if it is, it's smart what they're doing.
I somehow ended up with fake Amazon Basics products, and it's like, how did that even
I
happen?
think that's by design. And many of you, if you waited till the last minute, have probably just recently paid your taxes. Wasn't that a fun ordeal? And it's only going to get worse because they only want to widen the net.
U.S. Treasury calls for stricter cryptocurrency compliance with the IRS, say they pose a tax evasion risk. They want to monitor all transactions over $10,000. Spoiler alert, literally every other transaction over $10,000, including things like appliance purchases at your local Lowe's, are already monitored by the IRS. Literally everything. Don't believe me? Try to do something with $10,000 in cash in your bank. Like, deposit it. Just for giggles and see what happens.
Don't do that. It's terrible advice. Just trust
Bad
him.
criminal
It's true.
tip.
It's true what he's saying. There's other ways to research that than to actually go on the list. And the New York Times, the paper of record. Oh, man. They're so great. And the one thing about the New York Times that I love is that there is no way that you could ever accuse them of just being a mouthpiece for the government. I mean, you'd be stupid to say something like that.
The New York Times reports that when it comes to taxes, being tracked can be a good thing. So this is talking about not the government, but a third-party commercial app seller that provides a service that you subscribe to, and they will attest to your location. You run the app on your phone, and it records your location periodically. So, like, for example, say that you are a multimillionaire generating your fortune in California, but you actually live in a shack in rural Montana because the taxes are so much better there, or rural Tennessee. It's like, you can have the equivalent of a $5 million mansion in California for probably about $250K in rural Tennessee. And the IRS and California are both like, well, we need to tax you at California rates. I was like, no, I spend all my time at the cabin. You can use the app to prove that and not pay taxes.
You shouldn't have to, but you do. Now, that's not the federal government. Of course, the federal government gets paid the same no matter what. That is the California government, because they are not big fans of people with a lot of money leaving California. And guess what's happening right now?
This whole work from home thing, you mean I could just live in Aspen, Colorado? I don't have to come to the office?
You can
Colorado's super expensive too, though.
you can make what you're making now. You can spend way less on the cost of living, and you don't have to walk on feces and needles every day. Nice.
Someone else has been to San Francisco, I see.
Never. Now, I think we talked about this when it first happened, right?
We did,
I
yes.
kind of remember this, and we were just, as usual, just sitting here with our mouths open, like, how can this happen? And it took appeals courts and a long time to shake out, but thankfully...
I think the people that were involved in this got screwed, but the lawyers got paid, so I guess that's something.
I thought the number was pretty low compared to what we see in the other settlements, but at least... in some senses, justice was served.
The headline is Fullerton settles lawsuit against bloggers and recants accusations of criminal hacking. So let me just recap you on what happened here. These people used a Freedom of Information request type mechanism to request some information. And the city gave those bloggers access to their entire Dropbox.
Accidentally.
So they downloaded a bunch of documents. And it's like, did they know? Because the email was pretty vague. It was like, here's the link to all the stuff that you need. Just, go get it. And they downloaded a bunch of stuff that they probably shouldn't have downloaded and found even more salacious things than the things that they were looking for. So, of course, they blogged about it. And the city said, oh, they hacked. And it's like, no, you're just stupid. You were like, here. It would be like letting them in the records room for the city and then just being like, all right, definitely don't open the file cabinet marked really dangerous criminal stuff that's going to come back to haunt us. Definitely don't do that.
Right, I'm going on lunch. See ya.
Yeah, it's like, let's lock up when you're done. We'll see you. It's like, this is gross incompetence.
And the big thing was there was a cop who had done something wrong, and there were internal emails, and they were like, okay, if you resign right now and we file this paperwork, you'll keep your pension. We really should fire you, but we can totally do this and it'll be fine because we love you. And these guys exposed that. That was very embarrassing to them. And of course, the police were upset, and they began a campaign of harassment against these two gentlemen. So that's why they got the settlement.
Yeah, but the individuals only got about $60,000, and one of them lost their job.
One of them got $250,000.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the lawyer, though.
Oh my God, that was the lawyer's name?
I think that was the lawyer.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of them lost their job, and the person that lost their job, I definitely, like, if I were on that jury, I would award them a lot more money because, like, the headache of dealing with that and like chasing the thing down, and they literally came out and said, we're going to press charges against them, and they got fired from their job for that, and it's like, this is insane.
You would never be left on that jury.
No, probably not.
They would screen you out the first day.
And that's an important lesson to remember as we learn more about the happenings in the U.S. and the world through the rest of the episodes.
So that what our leaders would like to do when something like that, something embarrassing happens, is to just turn it off.
Yeah.
Just be done with it. They cannot do that here yet.
Yet.
Oh boy, are they working on it.
Yeah.
If we get rid of 230,
Yeah.
that is definitely going to lead to that. But around the world, citizens are not so lucky.
Facebook says government internet shutdowns are on the rise. 92 shutdowns or 92 countries? I forget. It was like 92. It was a much 19 countries 84 times. Okay, well there was a 9 in there somewhere.
But that's compared to 52 the same time last year.
Yeah.
So almost doubling. And
the march of technology, it'll get better every year.
remember that one year, was it last year or the year before, that just for some reason Germany was number one out of nowhere. And we couldn't figure out why. But this year, back to normal, Turkey number one. They love to shut it down.
Weren't they just
What's
admitted
not
to the European
Myanmar?
Union?
No, they're in NATO. I don't think they're in the EU. Or maybe it's the other way around. We always get it wrong.
Myanmar?
That doesn't exist anymore. That's something else now.
Sorry, Krista.
Yeah.
And wait, what did I miss there?
No, I just said I wondered if they were on the list. Like
Who?
Myanmar.
Oh, yeah, because I don't even, did they ever turn it back on?
Yeah, it only counts as one because it's just
It's ongoing.
yeah.
The people who can correct us probably can't see this program, unfortunately.
They should iterate every 10 days. That would make it more.
I don't know. I think Level 1 could fund drone drops of the Level 1 news program so that people inside Myanmar could get, outside tech news. Just
They start like playing it, and they're like, "This is garbage." Turn it off.
It's like the Cuba method where they're passing it around on USB sticks. It's just like, well, we don't have anything else to watch. Captive audience, I'll take it.
We accidentally unify everybody to the new government. It's like, oh, man, we're really bad. Well, over there in Ireland, they have, speaking of taxes, we were talking about taxes earlier, Ireland's got some interesting tax rules. They love big tech companies coming in there and just abusing their tax rules all over the place. They can't get enough of it, but it might be changing.
Facebook loses bid to challenge the Irish tax court. I forget what the headline is. The Irish what?
Watchdog.
Irish tax watchdog.
They were just trying to dismiss it.
Yeah. So, yeah, the European Union is slowly changing the rules of taxation in other like the whole Irish tax evasion thing.
Double sandwich.
Yeah, that's going away. And even the people in Ireland are like, we're so sorry. Please don't leave. But yeah, you have to do this.
Maybe it won't go away, but we will see the case.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's going to happen for sure now. And this is an interesting thing in the tech world. You really do have to think about this, especially if you're going to go to one of the big players. And it's a nasty practice, but at the same time, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that is insanely valuable. I mean, if you're working with cutting edge AI,
Yeah.
it's a big question. I don't know what's fair here.
Tech's non-compete agreements hurt workers and anger some lawmakers. Non-competes have a chilling effect on labor markets. This isn't anything new. This has been like this. It's like the 70s or 80s. This has been like this since even before then. Because there are historic cases where like somebody that was working for IBM went to work for Compaq, and IBM was like, "Are they working in the PC division? Because they were working in the PC division for us, and that's not okay."
But you're saying it's been this way since the 70s, but a lot of bad things have been this way since the 70s.
Yeah.
Should we change them? That's the question.
It seems odd that they're only just now noticing. Could it be that the reason for this is to use as leverage over the tech companies to get something else?
Could be.
Because I don't think they're going to change. I mean, it'd be great if they changed this. I just don't think they're going to.
I don't know. It seems like workers' rights are becoming more prominent right now. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
something you're concerned about.
you have to be worried that a lot of people at that table are the Bezoses and Zuckerbergs of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're good at crafting laws that sound good, but a year later you're like, oh, wait, what? What was in that? Really?
You're eating the dragon hearts?
You're eating the dragon heart.
There's an obscure reference.
What was the name of that game when we played it?
I don't know, but it was fun.
It was fun. We should
Those-
revisit that game.
Those skeletons with the bad animations
Yeah.
and the logs that wouldn't stop rolling. Oh, that was a good game. Well, I always say that when I lay down to sleep at night, one of the things that helps me get to sleep is knowing that our alphabet agencies and the government in general is never wasting its time with nonsense. They're always doing exactly what we need them to do. If you think about all the law enforcement targets that the FBI could go after, this has to be number one on the list, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Public enemy number one.
The FBI has gained access to Sci-Hub founder's Apple account, an email claims. Now, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't followed this program before, Sci-Hub is the website that publishes scientific papers, because usually they're behind a paywall. And most, but not all, but most of those scientific papers are funded by taxpayer dollars and created by academic institutions. And they're supposed to be not public domain, but accessible.
To the public who paid for it?
Yeah, you'd think. This is a really egregious. Like,
So the only reason she knows is because Apple sent the notification that, hey, we don't have any control over this, but law enforcement is looking at your account.
2 years later.
We have to give it to them.
2 years.
And so who knows what that case is doing right now.
She also said that it was weird because they thought that she was trying to sell information to ISIS. And it's like,
But it's free.
what would ISIS do with, like, badly written PhD papers?
ISIS could conceivably get all the information, but everybody could. That's the beauty of it. It's just science information.
Who approved this? Why is it so stupid? And that lead in, that lead-in is like, that would apply to like 17 of our stories this week. I'm thinking about the Twitter grand jury investigation specifically because, like, if you think this is an egregious, waste of resources, wait till you see what's coming up.
And it's not just limited to our law enforcement agencies. It's the top dog. We can be confident that he is always using his time as efficiently as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Never just some feel-good photo op. It's like anything to not talk about Israel right now. That's the game.
This clip
That's depressing.
was fantastic for that too.
Don't talk to me about the West Bank. That's the rule.
Biden filmed putting the Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck through its paces. The president's usually more of a Corvette guy, but it seems like he's having a good time with the Lightning. Yes, you should go watch the video on this to understand the reference.
I do kind of like the looks of those trucks, though. I mean, they look like the old trucks, but I like the idea of an electric pickup.
The pricing is like almost $40,000, but you get almost nothing.
We get the business story.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll cover that in business.
Tune in tomorrow to hear more about the F-150 Lightning.
Woo! F-150 Lightning in Chief right there.
Huawei, they've been banned. They are not allowed to sell parts to a lot of governments in the world. But have they found a loophole? A giant one.
Yeah.
A giant loophole.
Huawei's cloud services find government buyers. Huawei Cloud and e-government deals. Oh no!
Look at that map.
Looks like Panama is gonna be buying some stuff. Yeah.
Who's this? Port Villa.
Vanuatu, really?
Vanuatu? Interesting.
I only know about Vanuatu because of the
Volcano.
physicist Richard Feynman.
Never heard of it. Well, they're being spied on by the Chinese. We know that about them. We don't know that. That's my opinion.
It's like, oh, we got all these servers that we can't sell. Let's just build our own cloud services platform. That's the very definition of turning lemons into lemonade, isn't it?
Cloud lemonade.
Sounds delicious. Wow.
And also going on in China this week with some big news that probably affected a lot of you. Sure affected me.
China bans financial and payment institutions from cryptocurrency business. As a result, pretty much all cryptocurrency is cratering like a rock. Diamond hands.
How strong are your hands? Are they strong enough to add more? I bought a little bit.
I've been trying, but it's
The IRS doesn't want you to do that.
no, they don't.
Now, we learned recently about this big plan that they're going to take the immortal Tom Cruise and launch him into space so that he can film a movie. And Putin heard that, and he was like, not on my watch. We're doing it first.
Russia, racing to beat Tom Cruise and NASA into the first movie shot in space, picks its cast. The Russian space agency Roscosmos announced Thursday that it had selected its crew to headline the film, which will be called Challenge.
It's going to be a space opera, obviously. Wouldn't it be hilarious to film a movie in space that has nothing to do with space? Just a flex. And they give the actors and the director and stuff, Yulia Peresild. She's quite fetching.
Isn't that? I thought that. Yeah.
That's her. Yulia. And we'll see which one is better. Who can make the better space movie? I guess that one probably won't be in English, so we won't be able to watch it.
It'll be like Star Wars, where Star Wars actually came out in some other language, and everybody was like, "Oh, is this derivative of Star Wars?" When it was translated into English, and it's like, "No, that's where George Lucas stole the film from." It's fine.
Are you Twitter verified?
No,
Oh,
How hard do you want to be?
I'm not giving them any of my identifying documents.
Well, a lot of people will, because that blue check means a lot to a lot of people, and Twitter knows it.
Twitter reopens its verification process for the first time since 2017. They've streamlined it. Instead of it being a manual process now, it shows up on your profile, and you can apply for it, and it'll walk you through the process.
I hope that someday that most people are checked, and I can continue to not be. I'll
then
feel
you
better.
can be exclusive.
Oh, Chris, we can barely hear you. Say that again.
Oh, I was saying then you would be the one. It's like, I love it.
Chris, there's something that's terribly wrong.
Oh.
Check the audio levels while she's talking.
Talk.
Oh, it seems okay. Maybe it's just our headphones.
Oh, maybe. Maybe the chat is just like, what are these idiots talking about?
Yeah.
She's fine.
I don't know. They'll tell us, though. I had a problem with my mic last week, but that was something unrelated. And that's why I was so flappy. Some people commented on my flappiness.
We completely missed that because we have to move you off the screen or they'll complain about the cursor being on your face.
It was just like 3 or 4 stories where it was like I was having to tweak my mic settings a little bit. But
All right, well, let's hope for the best. TikTok, I guess it's exploding in popularity still. I still don't get it.
The exponential curve.
Chris, you got to repeat yourself, would you?
I was saying it's still very popular. Like, even with my generation, like, people in their 30s still downloading TikTok.
I don't know if this will bring in any big changes or anything, but I don't know. Seems like a big deal to them.
Founder of TikTok, owner of ByteDance, to step down as CEO.
There he is. Looking happy because he's probably hundreds of millions of dollars richer.
I don't have to think about this anymore. Heck yeah. Sign me up.
I don't have to go once a week and report directly to Jinping. That'll be nice. Now, we have often covered the idea that using social media, particularly Facebook and Twitter, could be a little bit bad for you. I think you talked about your mom having some experiences there.
Yeah, it's definitely, she's just not, open, messy sobbing over the Facebook stories and it's just like, I don't know what to do to help you. I mean, it's just
yeah, you probably should just avoid that.
Yeah.
But people are definitely addicted to it. My father is absolutely addicted to Facebook. And when I go there, he's like, "Oh, let's take a picture." And I'm like, "Are we taking a picture to put on Facebook? Because we're not doing that." And he's just like, "Aw." And the empirical evidence is overwhelming. But Zuckerberg just isn't convinced.
Facebook calls the link to depression inconclusive. These researchers disagree. Now, at first I was a little skeptical, but this is NPR. And NPR has done a really good job laying this out. And there are situations where people will look at social media and be depressed because they get caught up in a bunch of crap that doesn't matter.
Although, can we not make an argument that it's at least as bad and possibly worse just from advertising?
Yeah.
Because that's stroking those same heartstrings.
Yeah. It's like, what do you mean you don't have a robot vacuum in your house? Are you a poor?
So that's true for sure, but I mean, they're not doing anything. They're not breaking any new ground. I think maybe they've refined it. Maybe traditional advertising is the cocaine, whereas Facebook is the crack. I think maybe that's the difference.
Yeah.
It affects a different group of people, and it affects them way more. But it's definitely bad. Now, Google Photos, if you would like for your photos of your family and friends and all of your wonderful events in your life, if you would like those photos to be used to train artificial intelligence, you should use Google Photos. But not only will they do that for you, they'll give you this cool new feature.
Google Photos will soon make animated photos from your still shots. This seems like something inside me is reacting in a visceral way, like a crime against humanity has been committed.
There's definitely some uncanny valley in there, right?
Yeah.
That's creepy.
The photos from the Harry Potter movies where they would do like the newspapers with the moving pictures. That's what it is.
I'm so happy to tell you, Krista, that I have no idea what that is.
I don't mean to plug Rick and Morty, but the episode where it was like keep Summer safe and the car had to do it in a non-lethal way and it like ejected the pod and it was like one of the police officer's sons that had like died of bone cancer previously and the police officer was like, "Timmy, is that you?" And it just melted away into a puddle of goo. That's kind of what this is. This is like the version 0.01 version of this. Like AI is looking at something that'll, get your attention and lock your eyes on it. And if they're monitoring that, it's like, yes, I'm engaged by this. I can definitely see this. But it's just as insidious as the thing in Rick and Morty.
Perfect analog as usual. It's exactly like that.
Sorry. I mean, it kind of is. Because the robot was like, what can I do to distract the leader of the people that are, mobilizing the military force against the thing?
What's Google distracting us from?
The fact that they're doing AI on all of our pictures.
That's fair enough. Well, moving on to social media, we've done a lot of stories about, and they're usually the right-wing guys. The right-wing guys have a real sensitivity to this. They don't like it when people make parody accounts of them on Twitter. They really, really don't like it.
Again, crimes against humanity.
Well, who was the guy from Florida where they had the cow? Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember which. Yeah. Maybe the governor at the time. But they will go to great lengths, and they apparently don't read these headlines because they just keep making the same mistakes the guys before them made.
Yeah. Trump Justice Department tried to use a grand jury to identify Devin Nunes' critic on Twitter. Yeah, they got a grand jury, and then, of course, when Biden took office, this didn't matter anymore. But this is the very definition of corruption. Like, anybody could look at this on Twitter and see that this is a parody account, and it's protected political speech. This is not... Why did we spend government resources on this? The people that were involved in this should have to personally pay back whatever it cost. And I'm sure the government spent a lot of money. I want them to pay for those $50 pencils that ended up being used.
Well, Twitter, to their credit, they did fight back, and they did not give them the information. They went through the whole appeal process. I think a lot of that was probably political.
Yeah.
Because we know that Twitter hated the Trump administration.
Yeah.
But hopefully they would do it if it happened again.
Probably not.
I don't know. But that's terrifying.
I guarantee you the same thing happens whether it's Team Red or Team Blue. And that is a dangerous, slippery slope that we are already careening down, not under our own force. Like, it's just gravity pulling us down at this point.
I don't think we can blame government corruption on gravity.
On human nature.
Although they have existed. Well, no, gravity was before, because we didn't have government when we had gravity. Krista, how excited are you that Parler is back? I know that you had several accounts on there.
Oh, several. And just constantly shitposting on there. Just every day.
Well, it's good news, even though you don't have an Apple device. Oh, no, you do. You have your iPad. Yeah, you can Parler on your iPad.
Wow, fantastic. Parler returns to Apple's App Store and names new CEO.
It has a flag now. That was the big feature that was missing. Apple's like, you need a way for people to flag content for it to be removed. That's all we want.
They had some interesting quotes in here. We're being paywalled. Reuters. Oh, Reuters did it. They did the paywall.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Oh, that's so annoying. But one of the quotes was something like, yeah, we're still working with Apple, and we want our user base to be able to opt in to hate speech. Like, that was actually a quote. I mean, I agree with that. That's free speech, but it is a weird soundbite to throw out there for an article.
Yeah.
Do you add yourself to a list? It's like there's a checkbox, and it's like, I'm really interested in receiving extreme terrorist content. Beheadings are okay. It's like,
But you got to drill down, because I'm sure that they only want a specific kind of hate speech. They don't want all hate speech. That's kind of like monotheism. You still don't believe in all the other ones.
Maybe it's a slider, because like it seems like some of the old great comedians like Richard Pryor would be somewhere on that spectrum.
Didn't Facebook do the slider?
Of like what you would tolerate.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't Facebook. Somebody did that. Remember that?
It's like, do what, Krista?
No, it was Microsoft. It was the Xbox Live.
Oh yeah,
the racism slider.
Yeah.
Pick which racism, like level of racism is sexism.
I was fortuitous because we have a story about Microsoft here, because they bought another. I call that a social network. Do you call that a social network?
Yes.
LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll put that in this section.
Microsoft is, what was the headline?
They are kowtowing to whatever China tells them to do. So there was a guy.
For LinkedIn, yeah.
There was a guy who was very critical.
Yes.
Of the Chinese government, but he was not in China, and the Chinese government was like, "How can we go after him?" Well, he was on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And Microsoft was like, "Not anymore. Go China." I kind of want to do this. If this catches on, I worry for Nubbin.
Yeah.
Because Nubbin is the kind of guy who would really get wrapped up in this.
Yeah.
He would spend a lot of money that he doesn't have to get into this. Be careful, Nubbin.
The app that lets you pay to control another person's life. You can make decisions like what they're going to have for dinner that night or whatever.
And you might be thinking, oh, that's cool, I'll try that. Except it's $5 a vote. well, 5 pounds, right?
Yeah.
No, $5, 350 pounds. And you can create any sort of decision that you want on here. And if people want to vote on it, then they can. But you are expected to come through and show them
The consequences.
what yeah.
That sounds like a level 1 engagement challenge if we're honest about that. Probably a untold fortune for it's like, should we do this or that? This thing or that thing? And then
definitely it taps into a desire for people to interact.
Yeah.
And it just takes their money.
Do what, Krista?
Like, yeah, the Sims video game, but with real people and, real consequences.
I kind of wanted to do every now and then I've been like trying to buy something, and you get in it's almost like a concierge. Like a couple of times in my life I've experienced something where I've basically had a concierge type experience, but it was with like a subject matter expert trying to figure out which thing that I need to buy or which thing that I need to spend money on. And it has been really handy to have somebody that I've trusted is mostly unbiased, but that would answer my questions quickly and succinctly about the different approaches for dealing with a problem, or the different approaches for a product, or the pros and cons for a bunch of different products. And I really think that that's like for somebody like Amazon, that's an untold, thing. It's like, I want to make this simpler. Is there a product that makes this kind of thing simpler? And they're like, oh yeah, if you do this, then this will be a way easier way of dealing with that. And it's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up for that.
But anybody who has that level of knowledge has enough going on that they're not looking to give you money to tell you about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You would need to reverse.
Yeah,
the
it would
payment.
need to be the reverse of the situation. Exactly. And the way that Amazon fits in there is that you can reverse the money, is that you get the commission. So like they're going to buy a thing regardless, and so I'll get the commission from that. But I can choose the thing that best serves what their need is, and they'll come back to me for advice and input.
Here's the engagement challenge. Is there anything you'd pay $5 to vote for us to do?
That's a good engagement challenge.
Weird place. Real fast.
All right, Krista, give us a staticky, barely heard goodbye.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is May 26th, and we're doing business, robot, and I think, like 1 or 2 design stories?
One design story.
One design story.
A lone Android redesign
Singular.
story.
Well, that's a mammoth redesign, though. There's so much to unpack there.
There's a lot of screenshots, Krista. Prepare yourself.
Ooh.
Now imagine, if you will, that you accomplished something really, really impressive. Amazingly impressive. And you were just waiting, and you're like, oh, I'm going to tell the world about it. And the day comes, and you tell the world, and you're just riding high for 1 week. For 1 week. And then somebody comes along, and they're like, yeah, we did something 100% better.
Taiwan's TSMC claims breakthrough on 1 nanometer chips. Research project with MIT and NTU, that's the National Taiwanese University, to help improve the efficiency of future semiconductors. Now, they're probably 5 to 10 years off from being able to use this. Maybe not. But they're using bismuth. The secret was bismuth as one of the conductors of the leg there. Now, I can't help but think,
I think it's bismuth, isn't it?
I
thought it was bismuth.
Bismuth?
Yeah.
Bismuth.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm from.
I thought I was going crazy for a second. I was like, is that?
No, you're probably right. But the old mine workers called it bismuth because insane. But that's fine. MIT. Lisa Su is an alum from MIT, and the TSMC. I feel like that there's a connection there. It's like MIT and TSMC. You need to figure this out and get it done for world leadership.
I think all that money that the companies throw around mean a lot more than your old alumni ties. You think she was a sorority girl at MIT? Do they have sororities at MIT?
Yeah, they do.
They're probably academic.
They have football teams at MIT.
One of my calculus teacher, his son played football for MIT. And he said that when the coach got him out on the field for the first time, he just shook his head and said, take your watches off. They were all wearing watches.
Probably like the calculator watches, too.
Probably, yeah. And TSMC, that is not the only thing they're doing. Obviously, they're the prettiest girl at the ball right now. And they're making hay while the sun shines. I don't know if this will ever be, it'll ever make them money, but it's certainly going to gain them points, and it's going to lock them in for those delicious Biden dollars.
Yeah. TSMC is considering a 3 nanometer foundry in Arizona. Now, they've already planned a 5 nanometer facility. This is an additional second 3 nanometer facility. And I think with things heating up over in that part of the world, that we could definitely do with some facilities in Arizona, preferably in a geologically and climatologically very stable area of Arizona. Texas is just right out.
Arizona, though? Because Arizona's also going through a major drought right now.
I mean, drought's fine. We can deal with drought. It's just whatever happened in Texas that's tough to deal with.
I don't know. There's a lot of water that goes into that process.
We can pipeline that in. We're good at pipelines.
From California.
Already a major problem, yeah.
Just empty out the Hoover Dam. We need more chips.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It
fine.
should be in the eastern part of the country. It doesn't make sense to put it in Arizona.
I think this is the most geologically stable. Is the engagement challenge is like the Ohio, Kentucky River Valley, the most geologically stable area of the eastern part of the U.S.? And if not, what is?
That's certainly
Well,
got to
we've got
be.
the New Madrid fault line, and we've got sinkholes here in Kentucky.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, the California coast, it's got to be way worse, right?
It's got to be.
yeah, it's way worse. Ring of fire.
Well, cryptocurrency has taken a huge hit, but I don't think it slowed down the miners at all, because you can still make a lot of money at these prices.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA is trying to do something, and you might be thinking, hey, didn't they already do this? Yeah, but they screwed it up really badly. And they're hoping that this time around, now with the leaked driver, couldn't you figure this out on these?
No, because this is another new stepping of the silicon.
Okay.
So
how long before they screw this one up?
NVIDIA is nerfing new RTX 3080 and 3070 cards for Ethereum cryptocurrency mining. They're going to be labeled as light hash rate, so maybe gamers will be able to buy GPUs.
However, as we pointed out last time, just Ethereum. So you could still mine something else and convert it to Ethereum. Easily.
Very easily.
But don't. Just don't do it. And we have the big TSMC thing. Everything is about the fabs now. Who's making your chips, and can they make them quickly enough? And Apple are looking like some sort of amazing oracles, because they took the steps to free themselves, and they're continuing on that path.
Bloomberg reports that Apple is readying new MacBook Pros with the successor to the M1. Woo! Could be up to 64 gigabytes of memory. There's a lot of rumor and speculation here.
Was this the one that was going to be 40 cores?
No, that's the Mac Pro.
Oh, okay.
Rumor has it that some of these machines are meant for like the developer workflow, and so we might see these at WWDC. I kind of doubt that though, because they usually never release hardware at WWDC. But really, the only people that are clamoring for even more powerful MacBook Airs are like video editors and programmers.
I bet they'll be really cheap.
Like $5,000 probably. That's cheap for Apple, I guess.
With the chip shortage, I bet they tack another $1,000 onto
Yeah,
that.
easily.
Yeah. And Apple, of course, they're embroiled in this lawsuit, and we're learning so
Every
much.
week.
It's just a fire hose of information, and all of it is bad. They're a terrible company. And when they're trying to defend themselves, they kind of have to go into things that it's like, well, yeah, obviously you didn't do that.
I like the judge, though, because the judge is like, what was your motivation behind this? And they have to answer, and it's like, aha, I knew it. I knew that was your long-term plan.
They're saying, listen, yeah, we burned down the orphanage, but we didn't set fire to the individual children. We're not monsters. Come on.
Apple wants you to know it chose not to take a cut of the $400 billion in physical goods that passed through App Store apps. So what they're talking about, and they spent $50 million on the Worldwide Developers Conference, which is their developer event thing.
$50 million compared to their revenue.
But Judge, just listen, we do spend a lot of money on our developers. No, they don't. The reason that they said that they didn't take a cut is because they couldn't ensure delivery of the physical goods, whereas they can with digital goods, which seems like the biggest, horse pucky answer ever. Well, in the beginning, we had Netflix. And then Netflix was like not there, and then they,
But it also proves that there was heavy discussion about this.
Yeah.
And not everybody on the team had the same idea of, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
There was clearly somebody who was like, hey, there's money on the table. Let's get it. And maybe it'll happen in the future. What happens if they figure out a way that they can confirm the delivery?
Yeah. Apple is very, very hostile to its customers and is very effective at shifting any resulting hostility from that toward the other people that are involved in the transaction.
Or Facebook.
Yeah.
Or whoever. They are good at that. They're good at a lot of things. Most of them are bad for society. And this one, I guess, probably wouldn't be too bad for society, although we might find out like 3 years down the road that it destroys your eyesight. I don't know.
Apple has developed a way to deliver true 3D content on device displays without requiring the use of 3D glasses. So it splits the display in half, potentially, and you can have a left half and a right half. And because of that, you can create sort of a faux stereoscopic, you're looking through the phone, and there's some interesting stuff in the patent. I don't think we'll ever see this in an Apple device because Apple doesn't believe in doing anything that's even a little bit janky, and they still think touch screens are janky. So they're like, we don't want to touch screens.
Touchscreens can be janky. And do we need 3D? We don't need that. Remember 3D TV?
Oh yeah, that was supposed to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It wasn't.
I would like to have a really lightweight heads-up VR headset. That would be nice, because then I could have big displays no matter where I am.
But you don't need that to be 3D.
No.
Well, we've already talked about this, and definitely this weighed on a lot of people's week, I bet.
Yeah.
A lot of sadness.
Bitcoin Ethereum prices drop after China reiterates the ban on crypto services. Digital wallets across the globe took a hit Wednesday. I have unconfirmed reports that there were raids on mining operations to shut them down. And so that might mean that there are GPUs that are about to flood the market. But that's been real hush-hush. I don't know if that's true or not.
How does the Chinese government liquidate GPUs onto the market? What method do they go through for that?
Probably somewhere through, just gray market suppliers like usual. I mean, they don't have any trouble unloading kidneys.
Well, it's a different
They
market.
find buyers for those.
Is it? I mean,
Yeah, it's not as optional.
Well,
You know what? I think I could stretch my 1080 for another 2-3 years. But if I need a kidney, I need it right now. I guess I do have an extra one. And more fallout from the Epic case. Epic just continues to roll out more and more things that they say Apple is doing that are horrible. And Apple does a lot of horrible things. There's a lot of fodder here.
Epic is hauling out more evidence in the trial to show that Apple behaves anti-competitively, not just with the App Store. And I gotta say, there's a lot of good evidence there to do with like how they develop peripherals, how they deal with stuff on the Mac side, how they deal with all of that stuff. In fact, in this court case, if you connect the dots, the very next dot is that Apple wants to control Mac computers exactly the same way that they control phones and tablets. They want it to be locked down. They don't want you to be able to get software from anywhere other than the App Store. And they want to make that out to be in the name of security, no matter what. And we're going to talk more about that in the security section. But it's also anti-competitive if you behave that way as well, because that's literally the desktop computer. And if that's the direction they're headed with the desktop computer, Lord help us all.
It is a weird argument, though. Oh, it's not a weird argument, but it is a bad argument maybe in the sense that just because Apple is that bad doesn't mean that Epic is good.
Yeah.
We'll see. That case is going to go on for a long time, and it's going to reveal a lot of nasty stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing.
You can tell that how high the stakes are in that case because they're willing to let all this come out rather than just be like, all right, fine, do what you want. And the movies, are theaters open at this point? I think they are, right? Yeah. I'm certainly not thinking about it.
Nope.
I'm loving the immediate releases so I can sit at home in comfort. But I guess not everybody wants that. And one man who has a lot of money and a lot of foresight apparently thinks it's coming back.
Amazon said to make a $9 billion offer for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the production studio, MGM. Isn't that the one that they made fun of in Arrested Development a lot?
I don't remember.
I think so, maybe.
It was the Netflix. I remember Ron Howard.
Oh, I've never seen the second iteration of it. I should watch that. But yeah, they kind of list some of the IP that they will get down here.
Stargate.
The Hobbit.
4 Weddings and a Funeral. Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, was Lord of the Rings MGM?
No, I think The Hobbit was though, which the Hobbit movies were not very good. Maybe they'll remake them.
Who owns the Lord of the Rings?
Uh, New Line, I think. Still,
Okay. So we'll see. One good thing about this is we might start, these giant media mergers might start merging our streaming services together.
Oh yeah.
But then again, maybe not. They might think they can earn them more money and just keeping them where they are.
or they'll just they all combine into one giant monopoly, and then they can charge whatever they want.
Well, I will say,
Editors.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they would raise the prices. But I will say that when it comes to streaming services, I'm off all of them except for Amazon because Prime, you get it for free. But one that I'm actually thinking about picking up, just because it's the king of let this run in the background while I do something else, and that's Discovery Plus. There's a lot of fodder there. So, God forbid, maybe I'll end up as an AT&T customer.
AT&T to merge assets with Discovery. Discovery rides in out of nowhere and saves AT&T's butt. AT&T shareholders should be really happy because they were holding a hot potato.
A nuclear potato.
And now someone else is holding that potato.
Well, now the shareholders get a 70% stake in the new thing.
Yeah.
So they will still have those. If they're smart, maybe they'll get rid of them. But we'll see. See if Discovery can make lemonade there. I don't know.
I kind of doubt it. We'll see.
Well, I don't know about you, but one thing in this past year and it has been a year and a quarter, year and a half, every day I wake up and I'm like, God, I wish I could go into a conference room, have a quick conference.
I really miss that experience.
I miss it so much. I miss all the little nuances of it. And Zoom says, we've got you, fam.
Zoom events will try to recreate the in-person conference experience, selling tickets, tracking attendance, and hosting informal chats. They're
Screw my mouth a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces of software that's have popped up to try to deal with this, and it's not great.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to replace that.
You know what's been really nice though is like a lot of the people that are like, oh, we struggle to work remotely and we can't blah blah blah, have been forced to admit that their organizational skills are awful, and it's like, okay, now they're getting the hang of working remotely and working in a group and doing things online. And it's like, you say that you want us to be available for instant messaging 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but really if it's just like, all right, Thursday morning from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. we will be working as a group and everybody can be online, in all their different places. Like, that's just collectively the time that we're going to work on these tasks on the Kanban board to get them done. And they're like, oh, that works great. And I was like, yeah, that's what we've been doing since the beginning of time. You wouldn't listen.
And in some cases, you're having less meetings.
Yeah.
Which is just staggering. What?
It's like, you were right all along. All these years, we didn't have to, be a slave to our horrible, horrible processes. We should have just listened to you. And it's like, yeah.
Except they never say it that way. Like, they never say you were right. They're just like, wow, I never knew we could do this. And it's like, okay.
And I guess some people are still struggling with this whole, like, interacting with a 2D group. I don't know why, but some people want that in-person experience. And Google has created something that is definitely not that, but maybe this is the artificial sweetener of human contact.
Google's Project Starline video conference tech wants to turn you into a hologram. Our reporter tests a video booth to glimpse the future of telepresence. So Google's gotten this all wrong. What they need to do is the deep fake thing. Like, I need to roll out of bed and not even be wearing clothes or anything and hit a button, have a filter, and have me wearing a suit with the background of like a high-rise Manhattan apartment. And then it's like, yeah, hello, I'm ready, I'm here, and I've got all the stuff going for the video. That's what they need to do, not this.
And then your display driver crashes, and you're naked suddenly.
Yeah, it's just like this, just chest hair, and just
you got bags under your eyes.
You're smoking a cigarette.
Oops, sorry, my filter's off. Click. Oh, now I'm a cat.
And Apple stores are all back, right? I think so.
None of us really ever go to
I think
one.
I read that they were still requiring masks despite the CDC. So I think they are open. But their closest competitor, at least in that space, I would say, has always resisted permanent physical locations until now.
First physical store that Google is opening is in New York City, and they're opening it this summer. All right, engagement challenge. How long until they close again? I'm going to say 18 months.
Are you saying that because it will be a failure because nobody cares about a physical Google store?
I think that Google has in mind to create a physical store because they think most people, like they've come so far that most people don't understand the Google products and the ecosystem of how all the Google products fit together. Like Google Nest and Home and Android TV. They don't understand how good of an experience you can have with those products. What they really don't understand is that the experience, and Chromebook and all that kind of stuff. What they really don't understand, though, is that the experience with those products is trash. It's bad. It's very, very bad. And if you drink the Kool-Aid and learn to jump through the hoops, it can be a good experience. But the experience is so far removed from what an average consumer expects, no one is ever going to learn to use it. And that's why it's going to fail.
Mark your calendars. 6 months from today.
No, 18 months.
No, he's
Oh,
asked
sorry,
the
18 months.
18.
That's a long bit. Well, we saw this yesterday, just a quick glimpse of it with the commander-in-chief at the wheel, but it's coming, and you can have one, and they're somewhat reasonable in price.
Ford unveils the F-150 Lightning. It's all-electric pickup truck that will start at under $40,000. It's like $38,500, but that's for basically just a motor and some wheels.
Which is what I want in a truck. That's exactly what I'm looking for in a truck.
Not a great range, though, 200 miles.
Yeah, I'm not looking for long range in a pickup.
If you get all the options, it's $78,000.
Phew.
Like cruise control.
But pickup trucks are expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go a big V8. You can really, I don't think you go that high, but you will definitely start to add on to the dollars very quickly. And one interesting thing they did here, if you're thinking, well, that doesn't look much different than the old F-150, they purposely did that because there's a horde of aftermarket parts, and they wanted to make sure that you could use all of them on the new electric one, which is nice.
That's a nice bit of foresight.
I think that Ford will probably have a lot of fans that adopt this as a result of that and the fact that it's Ford.
I don't think I'd get the first year one, though. They're going to figure a lot out during this year.
Think, what do you think the over-under is on there being catastrophic problems with the battery?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine, as much as I dislike Tesla, I can't imagine that Tesla is so bad that they're the only ones to have those kinds of problems. Everybody's going to have them, right?
No, I think Tesla's actually done good on the whole with their battery technology as compared with some of the other companies that we've heard about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, for sure, they're going to have problems. Yeah. That whole 12-volt that runs the deep battery, everybody has that problem.
Yeah.
And they all got it wrong, which is amazing. Well, IRC, man, I miss IRC.
Yeah.
IRC was a great place.
Remember when IRC was slack?
I was thinking before then. But it was a really cool thing, and you could go on there, and you could sort of... It was a place on the internet that normies didn't go. And eventually it just kind of died out. I mean, there's still hardcore people there, but even I got too normie to go to it. But it just makes me sad to see this.
Freenode IRC staff quit after a new owner seizes control of the network. So this is a really, really bizarre story. Like, I tried to figure this out, and I was like, surely it wasn't like this. But someone owns the domain names, but they didn't do anything with them. And then they didn't do anything with the company either. Like, you have to file paperwork with the company and the Secretary of State, and all of the volunteers were free, and they didn't do any of that. And then they were like, wait a minute, I own this. And so then they were trying to seize control by seizing control of the domain names and the infrastructure, but it's all run by volunteers. So it's definitely a huge mess, and it seems like that it's been replaced, and it won't be called Freenode because the company that owns Freenode actually doesn't have anything to do with IRC. Like, the Freenode name as a corporation, it's a very odd situation.
And all the people that worked on it are gone. So it's definitely done.
Libera.chat is where they went.
Weird. Sure, that article was just scraping the surface.
Yeah.
On the insanity. They all made very incendiary statements, including the guy that's taking over.
Yeah.
Now imagine that you live in Australia, and we know that Australia has one of the worst internet setups in the world.
Literally just trash.
It's god awful. And every time we talk about how bad ours is, we get in the comments. It's like, oh, you don't even know. You have no idea. And much like everything else in Australia, it's trying to kill you too. That's the thing about it. It's not just that it's bad, it's trying to kill you.
NBN replaces 10,000 modems after lightning fries devices across the Blue Mountains. One family said blue sparks were flying from their modem as electrical storms wreaked havoc on the fiber-to-the-curb distribution boxes.
So they apparently cheaped out on the routers, used some parts that might not be hardened.
Surprise, surprise.
They've had to replace half of them. Man, that's crazy. They claim that the next one is more robust against that type of thing. I guess the Blue Mountains are, they have some really intense electrical storms, which is another thing in Australia that's trying to kill them.
If only they had planned for that when they originally, set up this infrastructure.
Exactly. Now, I put this in here. This almost got caught in my battery filter.
Yeah, because I was great until the very end of the story, and it was like 10 years away. It's going in the trash bin.
But it does sound amazing. Where my mind goes with this is like, if I had a bunch of those, I could get through the entire apocalypse. Maybe it would never wear out.
Mahels, I don't know how to say.
Mall, I would say.
They have a cheap and highly effective new electric motor, and it uses no magnets. So it still uses a magnetic field. It just uses stationary coils on the rotor that get an induced magnetic field. And so you would think that wouldn't be super efficient, but the problem is with fixed permanent magnet motors, they're most efficient at a certain RPM. With this, it's actually efficient across the whole range.
Now, if you lost power suddenly at a high RPM there, would you be risking catastrophic failure? I guess the magnetic field would still remain in place until it slowed down enough.
Yeah, I think that if the mechanism were built such that if you had some kind of catastrophic failure with the rest of the powertrain, the motor could be built such that you would still get the induced electromagnetic field to just slow itself down, like braking.
We'll see. Probably not. We'll probably never see. Sorry. All right, Krista, it's your time to shine. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We have so many screenshots. And
There are a lot of There's also some animation demos in this video down here.
what I'm going to do, Krista, is I'm going to have you read the headline, and then I'm going to tell you when I'm clicking to go through the slideshow, and then you can comment on each one. How's that sound?
Okay. Google shows off Android 12's huge UI overhaul.
Okay, we got the home screen here.
So I was reading this. Apparently, this changes based on like the colors in your photo, which I think is kind of cool. And I wonder if you can set that manually.
Are they going for contrast, or are they going for what matches it best?
I'm not sure how they pick it up. So like, there's a picture of the kid here eating like the apple or whatever, and they've got a yellow sweater, and it pulled the yellow from the sweater. I think, as well, it's hard to say for certain. It looks like they probably put like maybe a 20% like gray cast over the photo too to make it easier to see your information on top of it.
All right, so it sounds like you're positive about the new home screen.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I like the big graphic look.
All right, let's take a look at these notifications.
I don't like this as well. I don't like the 50-50 split, because if you need to put more information in there, as some apps will need to, like, it's going to get cut off.
Phablets are coming.
And how often am I just trying to get my two-factor code from that message? And that's going to cut it off, and that's going to be miserable.
And then you're going to click it, and it just makes you have to interact with it more, which is probably a net plus for the people who make the phone, but kind of annoying as the user.
Okay, now we have a themed color for the entire UI.
I like that. I think that's really cool. Again, I'm wondering if you can set that yourself, or if you, like, once you set your desktop, if it'll just choose it for you.
I mean, it seems to be pulling that green color from the background, right?
Yeah. Well, and it looks like this slide confirms what I thought, where it's got like the gray cast over the home screen. Because if you look at the desktop image, it's definitely brighter.
This one doesn't really show us anything new, just some notifications on the home screen.
Yeah.
Did you see that they added the elastic like pull to thing like Apple does because the patent has expired?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
I'm not seeing a lot more that are different. I guess the one that's just showing the well, that's just more notifications.
Yeah.
Here's a close-up of the notifications.
My home, 6 devices. Again, this is Exhibit A, and Google doesn't understand what people actually want.
Well, yeah, then of course this is an example where they're like, this is only, use cases where I have a tiny little bit of text in the notification, which is not always going to be the case when you're dealing with a complex system like this.
You know when that's super convenient though? Is when you forget to lock your phone and you're cheating on your spouse. Because there's not enough text for them to be like, well, that could be, but nah, probably not.
I quite like this. I think overall it looks pretty good. I mean, obviously, we'll probably see more of it soon, but pretty. Looks good.
Well, moving on to robot. That was our design section.
Sorry.
One story. I don't know where to find design stories, and Krista doesn't submit them, so don't blame me.
I used to find them primarily from one or two websites, but both of them gone to a pay-only model recently. So
It's the darkest.
yeah,
world
it's hard to
ever.
find stories that have enough screenshots to warrant actually using them, because otherwise it's here's one screenshot and it's well, there's not really a lot to talk about there.
They ought to embed cryptocurrency stuff for web browsing, because that'd be a great use case for it. It's here, I have a few, 100,000ths of a Bitcoin to give me 5 days of access to this website. Okay, click.
Yeah, but the transfer fees.
Yeah. I mean, the transfer fees should be almost zero in that case, but they never are.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. Well, let's talk about a first. First pictures, not the first to do it. U.S. number one.
Behold! China unveils the first Mars photos from the Zhurong rover. This is from the Long March rocket that we reported on a while back. And yeah, it made it. And it landed successfully, and it's deployed, and look at that. Good job. I mean, didn't it take us a few tries, even though we were number one?
Yeah, but they're standing on the shoulders of giants here. Come on.
They come over and slash the tires on our rover.
Well, here's a question for you. How many helicopters does theirs have?
Zero.
That is super cool, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say we should shoot for every country on Earth having a rover on Mars.
Yeah.
We should blanket the planet with rovers. Let's do it. And then we'll have, when they start getting down to end of life, we'll do battle bots type of thing.
How much does it cost to launch a satellite with SpaceX? What if we could launch a satellite and then pilot it to the moon?
Well, a satellite is considerably different than a giant rover.
Yeah.
The weight there is what's going to get you. And that's a great lead in, because it is hard to launch rockets. I mean, we're looking at Musk doing it, and he's making it look easy. You got to admit. I mean, he's out there every Wednesday, he's putting 50 million satellites in space.
They don't even blow up anymore.
Yeah, he's like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I don't even think about that anymore. That's like my grocery delivery. It just happens. But it's hard to do. Not everybody can do it easily.
Rocket Lab loses 2 satellites, but still aims to recover a rocket. The first stage of the company's Electron rocket may fly again one day, but its payload was lost.
How tough a day are you having there if those were your satellites?
Yeah, very sad. You probably had an insurance policy for it, though.
Yeah, but you got to prep
Rebuild
another chip shortage.
Depressing.
How easy does it get the satellite parts right now?
Then you got to phone up to Elon Musk and be like, have you got any extra room? I need some stuff I need launched in space.
He just makes you grovel when you call him for a favor.
Here is a great idea. Now, a lot of us aren't struggling with parking right now, but when that day comes, well, I know I'm going to be struggling with parking. We have a parking problem here. And if we had something like this, at least when you were on your way to work, you would know how bad the situation was going to be before you got there.
Sidewalk Labs launches Pebble, a sensor that uses real-time data to manage city parking. So you can see here, it knows the layout of the parking lot, and it knows where the empty spots are. And the car icons are comically small compared to reality. But look, it can see there's 2 empty parking spots.
The other thing this is going to allow them to do is to know how long you were parked there without a meter made.
Yeah.
Or a meter of any kind, actually.
Yeah.
So
Which is going to be a nice thing if you own land on which to park vehicles.
Or if you count on that revenue to fund your government. It's going to be a bad thing if you have a car to park somewhere.
Or if you're the chalk guy who chalks the tires.
You know they're not using that anymore, Krista. They're using a new, fancier method now.
Well, I think she's saying that guy's not going to have a job at all.
Yeah. Yeah, he's obsolete.
Yeah.
He's literally replaced by robots.
He can work at an Amazon warehouse.
For now. Until he also gets replaced there.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
And we love to talk about GPT-3 and that ilk type of thing. AI that just writes. You feed it a giant volume of information. You go read all these books, look at everything, and then write me a story. And it's incredible what it can do. It's not perfect, but it's really, really good. I'm pretty sure that there are Chinese companies using this on Amazon to write item descriptions. Yeah. And they're not very good. But the better we get, the more industries it can move into.
This AI tool writes real estate descriptions without ever stepping inside a home. So they, this couple, I guess, used it. Like, they had a realtor, but they also used this. And it wasn't the best description of the home, but it was pretty darn good.
So you can see there, lovely. Like, this is the AI deciding to put everything in caps and a space between them. So it saw this somewhere, and it was like, ooh, that's used to good effect. I'm stealing it.
Yeah.
And they said that it got some stuff wrong. Like, it would describe one room as having a certain kind of ceiling, when in fact it was the room next to it that had that ceiling, which is a weird mistake. But still very impressive that it could suss that out of pictures.
Yeah, it might have just been the way they submitted the pictures.
And it's honestly, like, I've read some bad real estate copy when we were looking for houses. So, I mean,
I never read the copy.
A lot of the time, the realtors are not literate.
Yeah, well, I found the copy to be so useless. Like, the things that I needed to know about the house were in the data, not in the copy. The copy was always just fluff.
I don't know. Sometimes you could glean a little bit of information from it. Like,
won't last long. And then they've been on there for 6 months.
I too would glean information that was like the wrong kind of information. It's like, now it needs a little bit of maintenance. Delete.
Yeah.
See, mine mentioned it was like, oh, there used to be horses on this land, but that wasn't mentioned anywhere in the data. It was just like something that they mentioned, like, you could do.
Great starter home, meaning it's kind of garbage.
Yeah.
The idea of starter homes, America's messed up.
Krista, how many months you been in your house at this point?
3.
What's your...
We started in March.
How are you feeling about it?
I 100% would buy a house, not like any house, but I would buy this house again. I'm very happy.
How much of that satisfaction rating is just from the pumpkins?
Oh, it's high. Chad, I've got a whole little pumpkin patch started with like 5 or 6 tiny little vines coming up. I gotta go water it. Don't invest in crypto. Just invest in pumpkin seeds. You'll be happier for it. That's not
They're much easier to trade too. The IRS is not going to look into your pumpkin seed purchases.
No. Pro criminal tip.
All right, Krista, give us a what kind of is a pumpkin a gourd?
Yes.
Give us a gourd goodbye.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Today is May 28th, and today we're doing security and nonsense.
Well, Amazon, they are reading the tea leaves, I think. I think secretly they would love to continue doing this, and maybe secretly they are continuing to do this. But the public face of it, they know what the mood of the country is, and they know they can't get away with it yet.
Reuters says that Amazon has extended the moratorium on police use of facial recognition software with their Ring surveillance dragnet. The idea here is to boil the frog. They hope that everyone will get the Ring and other surveillance devices from Amazon, and then they can just flip a switch, and all of a sudden we have this amazing police surveillance dragnet. Whereas, if you deploy these devices and immediately make them available for law enforcement, people might say, oh, I shouldn't buy that because it's going to be used for wrong purposes.
And you can't count on the police to wait. Like, if they can use it on a case, they will immediately.
Yes.
Which will spoil the fun. But if you wait and all the cases start at the same time, then it's too late.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Throw out all those cases? You gonna let those people back on the street, those criminals? Well, criminals. And the Colonial Pipeline, we know more and more about the perpetrators of that event.
They paid the ransom.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
a lot of people paid the ransom. Turns out these guys were really good at this.
Hackers behind Colonial Pipeline attack reportedly received $90 million in Bitcoin before shutting down. Good Lord. They rebranded. They didn't really shut down. They just
That's
rebranded.
a lot. Now, the FBI did get into their stuff and took away their servers, and I think they got a hold of their wallets, too. But the $90 million wasn't there anymore. So, a great return on investment for those gentlemen. I mean, there might be some girls there, but that's more rare. And they are not the only company to get ransomware. This one, I mean, The gasoline affects us in an immediate, visceral way. But this one is maybe more terrifying, don't you think?
Yeah, a little bit. CNA Financial, they paid a $40 million ransom because they were in for months and months and months. They had lost complete control of their infrastructure. They had no choice.
That's our money. Not my money. And ransomware, you might be thinking, especially if you run a big company, ransomware has to keep you up at night, right? It's way up there, maybe in like the top 10 things you're terrified of right now. But what if ransomware isn't the threat? What if ransomware is the Trojan? It's a crazy world, and we're living in it.
Microsoft warns of a malware campaign spreading a remote access tool masquerading as ransomware. So the idea here is actually to exfiltrate information because there's value to that. Running as a, what would you call it, a ransomware subterfuge campaign, maybe? Maybe be the best way to describe it.
What it does is hilarious. It renames your files and puts the ransomware extension on the end of them, but it doesn't encrypt them. It just renames them. So if you don't know any better, which, okay, the top 20 companies by revenue, just the not the IT guys, but just the top corporate structure, how many would know the difference? How many would know to test
Almost
that?
None.
I would say 0. Yeah. So what they're really doing is spying. I'm sure the government could learn from this. Here's the more important question. What do these two horses playing accordions have to do with security?
It's a
sitting here staring
distraction.
at that, thinking the same thing.
No, maybe that is it.
Yeah.
That would be a huge distraction, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If I saw horses playing accordions.
A horse's accordion, of course, of course.
Mr. Ed never played the accordion. He flew a plane, which was impressive. Wi-Fi cameras in your home. Good idea? No.
Have you not watched this program before?
How many times do you have to be warned?
Eufycam, a Wi-Fi security camera, streamed video feeds from other people's homes.
Now, they claim it was 0.0001%, I think. Yeah. 2 zeros. I don't know what they're basing that on. But people certainly took to Twitter. And you could be affected if you're in the U.S., New Zealand, Australia, Cuba, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. That's a lot of places.
Why would this fail in this way?
They pushed an update.
I know, but it's like we've built a bridge and occasionally the bridge will just eat cars. Like, how is this even... Why did... Or to use your orphan analogy, it's like we built an orphan killing machine and occasionally it thirsts for blood. And it's like, well, okay. It was like, we patched it. It doesn't thirst for blood anymore. It's like, but what? Why is it built like that in the first place?
We built a machine that changes the diapers of orphans. But 0.001% of the time, it kills them.
Why was it designed in such a way that it could fail like that?
Imagine you're the guy that wrote that update or wrote the part of the update that offends, and you come in the next morning and you see your email.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
This is not their personal failure. It is a systemic failure. This is the environment that we develop in.
Well, something that happens a lot here is we'll be sitting around. This usually happens more during the Twitch stream, but sometimes when we're in here filming stuff like this, and we'll come up with some insane question, and we'll be like, oh, Google that. And Wendell's like, no, I'm logged in. Don't do that. Because, yeah, you poison your... Oh, wow, Chris, to say that again, we got none of it.
Oh, I said he doesn't want it on his history.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one time we were looking for... I can't remember why we were looking for leggings.
And that completely changed.
Yeah. And from then on, we got so many legging advertisements.
I still get high heel ads.
So this feature, as silly as it sounds, I think is a great feature.
Yeah.
Google Ads feature to zap your most recent search from your search history. So, nice.
So I think the last 15 items, or is it 15 minutes, is the granularity.
15 minutes, I think.
And you might be thinking, why not just delete everything? Well, some people want their profile. Some people want to be curated to like that. They don't want to delete everything, but then they were like, oh, I shouldn't have just searched that. I want that off my stuff. I'll often do that with YouTube. Somebody will send me a YouTube link and I'll click on it and I'm like, oh, no, history, X that out of the history. I don't want any recommendations based on that. I don't want more Alaskan outdoor videos, Krista.
Remember that time we did the Barbie Dreamhouse episode and messed up all your recommendations?
Very
Nice.
upset by that.
This is my favorite security story of the week because it's one of those amazing things that you would never think of, but it probably is a decent prophylactic against a certain percentage of malware that's out there. Would you say maybe 10 to 20?
Maybe
10 to 20%, and cost you nothing.
Krebs on Security has this post where it's like, try this one weird trick Russian hackers hate. It's literally adding the Russian or Cyrillic keyboard to your computer. There is some malware out there that's like, oh, if you have this language, I'm not going to run, because the Russian authorities do not screw around. And if you're in that area and you're responsible for malware or something like that that affects a Russian business, they will hunt you down. And the reputation is so strong that they're like, no, we're not going to deal with this. It's funny that we don't have that here in America.
But do you think that the same thing exists for Chinese keyboards? Probably not, because they're going after their own people who are abroad, right? Yeah, they probably wouldn't do that.
And English is kind of a lingua franca, like it's used by more than just the U.S. So it's harder to target.
Go ahead.
What?
Harder to target?
We're having trouble, Krista. You're really your stuff is bad right now. Say it again.
I was going to say, like, English is a lingua franca, so it's used in more than just the U.S. So it's harder to target.
Of course, it is the aviation language. Number one.
I seem to remember some malware that targeted people that only had Chinese keyboards. Like they were looking for somebody.
Again, they're going after the diaspora because they are threatened by those people.
We covered this like 3 weeks ago.
But the thing about it is, one more thing about the keyboard, watch out, because eventually somebody's going to figure this out and they're going to make a Russian keyboard that's going to become like number one on the App Store and the Play Store, and it's going to have malware in it.
Yeah.
Because they'll know that people are trying to do that. And that's a juicy target because it's a target that knows enough about security to care, so it's probably a good target. Yeah, Audacity. Did we talk about this when they did it, probably? Or when they announced it?
Yes.
Yeah, and
they walked it back.
As you can imagine, people not happy. Audacity is one of those pieces of software that at least I think of as like the free and open source.
Yeah.
Like, these are the good guys. Why would they do this?
Audacity bows to public pressure and says it will not collect telemetry data from users. Turns out, if you're willing to put yourself through the pain, agony, and suffering of using a half-finished operating system, you probably care about those things because that's why you're suffering.
That's a good way of putting it. There's a Windows Audacity, though. Right. You know, people are going to say that's a half-finished operating system, too. Yeah. I get it. Now, let's say that I tell you Alexa spies on you. And you're like, God, you're a conspiracy theorist. I don't care. You know what? I got nothing to hide. I'll invite Alexa into my home. I don't care if she listens to what I have to say. Let the Indian call center listen. But will you feel the same way about it when it's not some anonymous outside source, where it's not just Jeff Bezos or some call center somewhere, but when it's your neighbors who get access? Does that change how you feel about Miss Alexa?
Amazon's Sidewalk network is turned on by default. Here's how to turn it off. Company Sidewalk Mesh network goes live on June 8th. The good news is that you can turn it off. So this is a radio frequency, low bandwidth, Bluetooth, low bandwidth sort of network that's not meant for Wi-Fi or internet connectivity or anything like that. It's kind of a cooperative network. It doesn't mean that your neighbor can listen in voice-wise necessarily, although there may be hacks that permit that at some point. This is more meant to be like the sensors and smart devices that you have in your house. When you set those off, that things could happen. So like say you're in at the south end of your neighbor's lawn, his devices can't see it, but your devices can, and he hits like the reorder button, which is not a thing that they do anymore, but if that reorder button can be heard by your devices, it knows that his devices, it knows that it's his reorder button, but it could use your internet connection to actually do the reorder. But
here's the terrifying thing about it. And they just announced their new, what do they call their little tile product? Anyway, it helps you find your keys and stuff like that. You know, you attach the fob, and all of that runs through the mesh.
Yeah.
So the location of your house keys is running through your neighbor's mesh.
Potentially.
Well, if you're driving out of the neighborhood
with
your keys in the car, it's going to catch them.
Neat.
Is that a car?
So. That's a motorcycle. It's motorcycle season, Krista.
It is. It's dirt bike season here.
I do not miss living in my office during motorcycle season because there's a very popular biker bar nearby. And when we talk about Huawei, it is a question of, well, not so much a question of are they spying, because we know we cannot trust them. The question is, how much could they potentially spy? Now, they say, you're crazy. We don't even have that capability. We're definitely not working with the government. But when people start to look into it, maybe not so much.
This story is amazing. The headline is Huawei's ability to eavesdrop on Dutch mobile users is a wake-up call for the telecoms industry. I'm not sure if it was reported in this article, but it was audio eavesdropping that was basically a point-and-click interface.
Well, those guys in the Communist Party, a lot of them are really old. So you got to make it simple.
That's an incredible level of spying to just be built right into the product.
Super convenient. And certainly if you are someone who is, you've gotten into cryptocurrency during all this, you're living your whole life online, you're probably dealing with some CAPTCHAs. It's an unpleasant part of our reality. Although in most cases, almost everybody's gone multi-factor instead in my world. But Cloudflare still hates them and it wants to destroy them.
Cloudflare wants to kill the CAPTCHA. Security keys can not only bolster authentication, but could remove one of the most annoying aspects of the internet. So yeah, just forget CAPTCHA. You have to verify with a token. And in some things, this makes sense. Maybe not for everything.
But they're talking about, in this use case at least, maybe it's just ZDNet trying to make it something that the normies can understand. But it was hardware tokens.
Yeah.
And, that's just going to get stolen.
Yeah. There's no reason that you couldn't use a phone or a secondary device as a kind of hardware token. Unless you just need the highest levels of assurance.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. But, you would use a card or something to near field to the phone.
Yeah.
To a CAPTCHA. And then that's going to get stolen and spoofed.
Yeah.
CAPTCHAs aren't that bad. Although I do hate the ones where they give you the grid and you have to choose the items within.
And then they come back.
Yeah, and you have to do it 4 times. That's pretty bad. Well, another big name that we previously did not know had fallen to dark side. That's funny because he's the Justice League guy. Spelled different, though. And this is a big one. Probably going to affect the chip stuff, right?
A Toshiba business unit says it has been attacked by the hacking group DarkSide. So, yeah, this is the mechanical hard drives wing, I think.
It was one specific part of Toshiba. Didn't get to the whole organization, luckily, but they did extract some money from them, I think. They figured out that the average... Maybe we have an article. Have we covered that yet? But the average that they got, the dark side got, was 1.9 million.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago, when DarkSide was in the news for something else, the rumor had it that they had gotten Toshiba or somebody, but it wasn't confirmed then.
Yeah. At that point, it was still just a crazy conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like so many things we hear about right now. The kind of stuff that's so far out there, it's not even left field. It's like the left moon. You can't believe this kind of stuff. They're saying crazy stuff like the stuff with the thing that we can't talk about, but a medical decision that you're going to have to make. And some people are claiming that it does crazy stuff, and that technology does not exist. New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, ask whoever you want. It doesn't exist.
Engineering.columbia.edu reports that tiny wireless injectable chips use ultrasound to monitor body processes. Columbia engineers have developed the smallest single chip system that is a complete functioning electronic circuit. Implantable chips visible only under a microscope point the way to developing chips that can be injected into the body with a hypodermic needle to monitor medical conditions. Huh.
That kind of...
Sleep tight, everybody.
Now, you might be thinking, but how do they power that? Well, the ultrasound provides the power. So once the chip is in you, if you are near a strong enough ultrasound field, they can pull the data.
Neat.
That's not neat. That's terrifying.
At least it's not a radio transmitter that's on all the time.
Yet.
Or polonium or something.
That's a different use case. This is, we've talked a lot about fingerprinting, browser fingerprinting, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. Now, if you do a lot of zooming, you may notice that when you click on a Zoom link, sometimes your browser, if you have Zoom installed, will pop up a little thing. It'll say, hey, do you want to launch Zoom? But if you don't have Zoom installed, you don't see that, which means that Zoom is able to ask your browser, is Zoom installed, and get a yes or no answer. Well, guess what? That's a security risk.
Tor users beware. Scheme flooding technique may be used to de-anonymize you. By probing for installed apps with custom URL schemes, it's possible to build a 32-bit unique fingerprint. So, turns out a lot of programs want to register links in the browser to make things a little easier, a little more accessible. And there's such a vast universe of software out there that can do that, that you can kind of de-anonymize somebody if you take that into consideration with a bunch of other identifiable things.
And the more stuff you have installed, the better yours is going to be. And as more and more of these things become household things that we all use, then that 32 bits is going to increase.
Yeah. And you can tack on things like screen resolution and, just basic stuff in the browser other than the installed applications, and provide even more metrics for things.
You could probably get to 64-bit just with that stuff that we know about.
Probably.
Easily.
Fonts, if you got fonts installed locally, probing the fonts. Yeah.
Terrifying. This is more fallout from the old Epic case. When these people are put on the stand who have deep knowledge about how bad things are and they are compelled to tell the truth, it gets interesting.
I can't wait for the cross on this one, the cross-examination. I don't think it happened, but Craig Federighi says that the Mac has an unacceptable malware problem. The context for this heading, though, is really important. The context for this, what he's saying, is he's saying that, no, the iPad and the iPhone are great. They are bastions of user security, and Apple can do no wrong in that. But with the Mac, on the Mac side, we've had to put so much work and engineering into the firewall and dealing with software and blah, blah, blah. It's so much easier to just lock users out from being able to run anything rather than actually architect a secure platform or a secure operating system or proper privilege escalation. It's just easier to lock the users out. And that's where they're heading with the Mac. And if you don't believe me, the testimony is in the case to support that supposition.
Does anybody think that they're not dying to have the App Store on the Mac?
The people in our comments every time that we mention that.
Well, yeah. Come on. Now, we've talked about this before. I don't think it was necessarily, it couldn't have been a cicada year for us because it's 17 years. This affects other kinds of insects, though, and it is particularly terrifying. And I want you to think about this. When the cicadas are like thick, they'll bump up against you. Like they're just swarming around, bouncing into you. And think about what they might be leaving on your body and clothing. When you just take one to the face, it might be this.
Fungus is pushing cicada sex into hyperdrive and then leaving them dismembered. Ew.
It's already disgusting enough.
Yeah.
So this is the fungus. It's like the cordyceps where it controls their mind, but also, for whatever reason, melts their genitalia.
Oh.
So if an affected cicada, which is flying around, randomly because it's crazy, it's lost its mind,
desperate to mate,
it might leave what's left of its little cicada genitalia smudged against you as it flaps into you or your car.
I saw the first one yesterday.
Oh, did you collect it?
No, I did take a picture of it, and I was like, oh, you little bastard.
Did you name it?
No. Rue was interested in it.
She's going to eat so many.
The rescue I adopted her from posted an infographic that was like, don't let your dog eat cicadas. It's bad for them.
Why not?
They're hard little shells. If they eat too many, it can mess up their intestines and kill them. It's actually a thing, apparently.
Rue taking a big, nasty cicada dump.
Yeah.
Take a picture of that. Krista, do you kiss Rue?
involuntarily. Usually, Rue doesn't have a lot of like ideas about personal space, so she just kind
But-
of shoves her ears.
But some people like will go mouth on mouth when a dog does that, and I find that just like I can't get my head around it.
Do you do that with your cats?
No. The closest thing I come to Toast, when I'm laying down, he lays on top of me, and if I stop petting him, he's figured out that if he just reaches out and puts his paw on my face, I'll push it away, and then he can jam his head into my hand and continue the pets. So I am getting a face full of paw once in a while, but never any mouth-to-mouth contact. Good Lord. Headline.
You want me to read that? CDC urges against kissing, snuggling poultry, and salmonella warning.
As you do.
They have beaks. That hurts. They're gonna peck at you.
I guess, like, if you just kissed him on the top of the head, that would still be a problem, right?
Yeah.
Salmonella. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Like, you're supposed to always, wash and sanitize your hands after you deal with chickens. They're gross.
We talked about you getting some chickens, Krista. Are you still in the market for chickens?
Not yet. That might be like a year 2 or 3 project. Also, half my neighbors have chickens, so at this point, I can just go buy eggs wherever I want. So.
Or steal chickens.
Rue would love that.
Now, this one, every time we do a story like this, I'm pandering here. I'm pandering to the international commenters. And that's a terrible group to pander to. But, yeah, we're fat. All right? We know it. Although I will say, Mexico regularly beats us on the national scale. So, just remember that.
U.S. travelers might be asked to be weighed before flying on airlines. Federal Aviation Administration is asking you to step on a scale before you board your next flight. Maybe. That's because we've had a few near misses because they try to estimate exactly how much fuel an airplane is going to need because of that whole thing like 10 years ago. It's like, you don't need that much fuel to go here. You need this much fuel. So, but you need to know the weight and the wind in order to calculate how much fuel you need.
Now, previously, the U.S. average was apparently 190, which when you consider girls, that's kind of high. But now, it's even higher.
Wow.
And they're trying to figure out what the new average is with this program.
40% of American adults are overweight and 20% of children.
I thought it was way higher than that.
Not according to this.
It should be way higher than that. Air travelers is probably way higher than that.
We're doing good.
Poor people don't ever travel by air, so we don't want to consider them in the averages either.
Well, they've got Spirit now, so they can travel. They can suffer while they travel. This one is, it's the old Noam Chomsky language stuff. It seems like it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. This never stops, and it never will.
Penn State to remove the terms sophomore and freshman from course descriptions. I guess that means that sophomoric humor has been outlawed on the Level 1 news program.
Is sophomore gender-based?
I was trying to figure that out. I was like, am I just stupid? What am I missing here?
Is that based on Sophos?
I didn't think it was gender. I thought it was sophomoric.
But why is that bad?
Because it's sophomoric.
But that just means that it's not like...
It's not mature.
It's youthful, yeah. But are sophomores mature?
Being mature is it's a negative connotation.
Well, they mentioned they're changing all like the pronouns and stuff to they, them, theirs, and whatever. But like, is sophomore, does that convey gender? I can see maybe the argument for freshman because it has the word man in it. But
look at their argument. They want to move away from a typically male-centered world. And what about sophomore? I don't know what
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Is it Sophos? Is that the origin of that? Is it a female gendered word? Engagement challenge?
I don't know.
Well, Krista, as far as I know, you are still happily married.
Yes.
It hasn't been very long, though.
2 years?
Do you feel like you are still in the honeymoon phase?
Not really. Settled.
When did that
We're not.
end? How long did it last?
Right up until the thing we can't talk about yet.
No. Okay. Was it maybe like just spending a little too much time with each other during all that?
We're not like, we don't argue or anything like that, but just the the shine gets taken off when you see each other every day in your pajamas working.
I guess so. And in China, they have a similar thought, except it's kind of on the other end of the phase.
Divorces fall 70% in China after government orders couples to cool off.
So you have to wait. You file for divorce, and then you have to wait a month. And at the end of the month, you have to go back. Both of you have to go back and be like, no, we still are serious about this. If one of you backs out, it's off. And it's had a huge effect.
Wait, so one person can be like, I don't want to divorce, and then hold the other person hostage?
I guess, yeah.
Well, that kind of sucks for like people in abusive relationships, doesn't it?
And in fact, Krista, they report that overwhelmingly it is the woman who initiates a divorce in China. So it may be, rather than cooling them off, they've simply removed the women's ability to leave a marriage they don't want to be in. But I don't know.
In theory, it's not a bad idea, but then when you think about like, you know, maybe hopefully they would be edge cases, but like abusive relationships, that's not great.
Well, when you say abuse, maybe physical violence would be an edge case, but emotional and verbal, probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Engagement challenge. Is anybody in a Chinese marriage? Now, these stories, I know that some people will accuse me of being toxic and male and white supremacist, but these Indian politicians, I never am not shocked at how insane they are. Now, here's the question. Do you think they believe it, or are they just pandering to what they know is their base?
Probably pandering.
I got to think so, right?
Yeah.
Because it's madness.
Which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Manipuri journalist and activist arrested under the NSA, that's the National Security Act in India, for Facebook posts rejecting cow dung and urine as cure for the thing. So this is a journalist who's like, this is insane. This is not a thing. Remember when we reported on it and it was like, oh yeah, you can totally use urine. This is a journalist that was like, don't do that. Please don't do that. They had him arrested.
Twice.
Under the National Security Act. And I'm so sorry. Engagement challenge. I know we have a lot of people on the subcontinent, you know, in the audience. What the heck's going on?
But see, that's the crazy thing about India. Those people are living side by side. The guys watching this channel who are into tech, next door, they got these guys just bathing themselves in cow urine.
Well, that's what the politicians are telling them to do.
And I know that...
Though, like,
we have it too. I know. I realize that.
We have it too because our politicians are like, come storm the Capitol and free me. I'm not in another castle.
But so far, we have not talked about any defecation of animals being used. I think
that definitely happened that day.
What are you talking about? The January?
Yeah. In
animals
in the U.S. Capitol. No, the people, they left poop in places that it doesn't belong.
No, but I mean, they weren't trying to cure diseases with it.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
No, I totally believe that they, you know, I mean, but the bathrooms were probably overwhelmed that day, right?
There's no janitorial staff. What's happening?
And when it comes to, you know, we can't look down. The house on the hill, we can't look down on all the other houses because we're just as bad.
We are.
But our politicians, one thing about it, once we figure out that they're stealing, we do try to do something about it.
Sometimes.
We don't get all like easy on them. Well, maybe we do a little bit. You know, the more I talk about it, you know what? It's all the same.
Spain moves to corruption and rehabilitation for officials who just can't stop stealing. So Spain is kind of treating it like kleptomania. It's like there was a bunch of politicians that got in trouble for taking bribes, and then there was an investigation, and they're like, all right, you need to stop doing that. And they're like, all right, we're going to do that. So then they had an undercover bribe, and it's like, you really have to stop doing that. And then they had another undercover bribe, and it's like, what are you doing keeping taking the bribe? And they're like, I can't help it. It's a compulsion. And so it is being treated like a compulsion.
Oh, that's awful generous, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, because why would you not just imprison them? But apparently they don't want to do that. I'm sure they imprison people for other things, much less dangerous things. Now, this is definitely, I checked the date. This is May 14th, 2021. But I remember a story almost exactly like this.
Yeah. I don't know. There wasn't any details here, so I'm just going to fill in the details from that story for this one.
It seems like exactly the same thing. But also, it seems like this was a programming mistake.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that I would count that as a crime.
Well, maybe. I mean...
Engagement challenge.
Man who used the KFC glitch to order 6,500 pounds worth of chicken for free jailed in China. Between the gang, they stole a combined total of 15,500 pounds worth of free takeaway food before they were caught and jailed for their crimes. So this is one of those things where the order kiosk is like you order a meal and then you can take some things away from the meal and you get a little bit of a price break. And it turns out that different combinations of adding things add up to a price that's basically zero.
Well, I think this is a little bit different than that. That's the one they did to McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this was, they had a mobile app and maybe a desktop app. And he figured out that because they are separate, the coupon doesn't count. And if you keep rotating back and forth, it keeps working. And he shared this information. That was what killed him. Listen, if you've got some kind of grift and it's working amazingly and everything is going great, the last thing you want to do is tell anybody about it.
See also cryptocurrency.
Yeah, you got to keep that to yourself. But not only did he share it, he started reselling the food.
Yeah.
So he really pushed his luck here.
Yeah.
He probably...
Sorry.
He could have gotten away with this for so much longer. What about the picture, Krista?
The picture, if you scroll down in the article, they have like pictures of pandas all over the side of the KFC. It looks like they sell panda instead of chicken.
I imagine Colonel Sanders is not a strong mascot in China. They probably don't identify very well with him, so the pandas maybe bridge that gap.
I guess.
Or maybe it's a seasonal thing. Do they have like a panda season? Is it the year of the panda?
I don't think so. I think it's the year of the rat. Isn't it?
I don't even know if the panda's on that wheel.
Is that last year?
Probably not.
It all runs together.
I think it's the year of the ox. 2021 is the year of the ox.
Oh. Okay. I don't know what to do with that information.
Now you know.
Well, we've entered into a world where everything is out there. Record requests, social media. You have to know that if you run for a political office, they're going to dig into every aspect of your past. Your enemies are going to find everything. And you're probably going to be better off just being upfront about it, which is what this man did.
Philadelphia DA candidate addresses woman found dead in his home. Look, she had a blood alcohol level of 0.45. I don't know. She was into a party or something. I don't know what happened.
So he lays it all out. You got to give him credit. He took all of the various things that they could say, yeah, but, and he addressed it. I was out of town. Here's my phone records. I have surveillance cameras. Some people said there was a party. There was no party. There was just her. Here's the surveillance camera records. Here's the medical report of her blood alcohol level when she died. I wasn't there.
Also, there's a quote in this article, and the long story short is that I was not her only boyfriend, but it was my apartment where she expired. If it was another boyfriend's apartment, you would never heard of this case. What?
Right, because his political opponents would be the one to dig this up. He's trying to get in front of it.
Yeah, it's strange though.
So on his website, his campaign website, there's a tab, the dead woman in my bathroom. And it contains all this information.
It's a very callous way to handle the situation. I mean,
we're really sending our best and brightest throughout the country for political office.
Although at the same time, would you not be upset? Some girl that you know, she wasn't your girlfriend, but you'd made some mistakes maybe, and all of a sudden she chooses your house to die in to drink herself to death? That's a party foul.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Speaking of party fouls.
This is the best one ever. This is my all-time favorite Zoom nonsense.
Yeah.
Do you think, was he just in a tough spot and he was like, they're going to know, but I got to do this anyway? Or did he think he was going to get away with this?
He thought he was going to get away with this.
Engagement challenge. Do you think he thought that he was going to get away with this?
Ohio politician's fake Zoom background can't hide the fact that he's driving. The seatbelt didn't do him any favors either. So that looks like his office at home, and he's in a meeting, and so he's got his laptop open on the dash, and he's just driving around.
Well, they did point out that beyond the seatbelt, his head was in constant motion, and then you had frames like this.
Beautiful.
And one of the best things about this, it wasn't the primary point of the meeting, but one of the things on discussion was the plague of distracted driving.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is who leads us.
best and brightest.
And I think it's become a tradition at this point. We've ended at least 5 nonsense sections about Gwyneth Paltrow's candles. They're the gift that keep on giving. And if you're super lucky, one of the things that it'll give you is a house fire.
Gwyneth Paltrow's company has been sued after man claims that her scented candle, you can read the headline, exploded. So the website says don't burn the candle for more than 2 hours. And he admits that he burned it for 3 hours, but then it exploded and left char marks on his nightstand.
I'm not a candle expert, but being able to burn until they are gone seems to be a feature that we had in candles like back when we were making them out of whales.
What do you suppose the whale candle smelled like?
Oh, couldn't be good, right? It's like it's a open air seafood market in August. That's what the whale candles probably smelled like.
Well, here's like that too.
Hopefully, when it's not like that. I mean, not, there's an obvious comparison, but so they also pointed out, and this, my level of disappointment here is immeasurable. Gwyneth does not make these candles. She third parties them from a company called Heretic. And apparently Heretic, they'll tell you these candles will explode if you mess around with them.
Which, it looks like, I looked it up, and now that's in my search history. But it looks like it's like a glass container, so maybe it's like, once it gets down super low, it cracks. But that seems like you would use a better grade of glass for it's going to get real warm.
Or the temperature just keeps increasing.
Until the glass shatters or something.
Yeah.
I wonder...
There's a perfume for that, too.
How, do you think these stories, because these stories are constant, because it's such a great headline, right?
Yeah.
Because of what the candle is supposed to be. Are all these headlines helping or hurting candle sales?
Definitely
Probably
helping.
I think so too, yeah. I mean, some people are like, I wouldn't mind having that explode in my house.
Krista, what?
Oh, I said the same. I said probably helping.
Now, Krista, you regularly take shots at Miss Paltrow's skin. What do you think about this image? I think she's probably looking pretty good here.
She doesn't use sunscreen. You can't not use sunscreen.
I've never used sunscreen.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Heretic.
But she, I don't take regular swipes of her, but she did a video recently where she was like, yeah, you don't need to use a lot of sunscreen. And she just like dabbed it on like a highlighter. And I was like, you can't, that's not how you apply sunscreen.
Maybe you should do a
Maybe
video.
it's like thermal paste where people just argue about it.
Now there's a Venn diagram. It's never going to cross over. Two entirely different sets of people right there.
But you know what Venn diagram is going to cross over? You, and checking out that Linode link below, or at least some of the Linode resources where you can learn and do fun stuff.
And Linode doesn't sell candles, but they will guarantee that the data center will not explode. If that happens, you get your money back. I don't know if that's true or not. All right, Krista. What else we got in the garden?
I've got zucchini, cucumber, potatoes are doing pretty good. We got some blueberries. I just planted 2 Honeycrisp apple trees, which are going to get destroyed by cicadas if I don't net them immediately. But that's fine. It's fine. We're learning.
How much were those?
I got them on sale, so for 2 it was $50. But they're like small little bare root seed tap.
All right, well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.